And we are live. This is episode 91, Sean. 91. We're getting close to the 100 mark, and we're going to have to do something special for the 100. I don't know what it is yet, but something crazy's got to happen.
100 episode Muskrat Spectacular team review.
We might have to restructure the schedule. That's now we're getting somewhere. We are absolutely getting somewhere now. That's a great idea, and I think
Do we have
all
any
the
party poppers left from the draft?
we'll have to consult with James on that. I think there's got to be one laying around, but I'll tell you what, I think I blew off at least 2 to 3 for the James Pierce trade towards the end of the draft. So, I don't know how many are truly left, and I want to just say that if there were leftover party poppers, that they were probably blown for Tyler Shuck early in the second round. If they were
Yeah.
just laying around the house, I think James would have blown a couple of those off. So, anywho, we will have to restructure the schedule if it truly means that the August 12th episode would be the Muskrat episode and episode 100. I don't know how we couldn't do that. I mean, that would just be it's too easy. It's just too good. It's simply too good. The hanging crooner special there, Tim Robinson style. So we have the start of our team review series. Always one of our favorite series over the summer because usually this is the point where we have nothing to talk about. We do have a little bit of OTA action, at least for a couple more weeks, so that's exciting. Not
Mandatory
OTA, but
minicamps.
minicamp, mandatory minicamps. That's right. Like the Bucks started today. I know a few other teams started today, so we did have a couple of signings. I guess we should mention because they are legacy players for the Plague specifically. But Nick Chubb looks like he's signing with the Texans in an interesting landing spot for that one. But I do think, like we mentioned yesterday when we were talking, that this is like what team's going to give him the best chance to win the Super Bowl, probably for him. Also, while maybe getting a couple touches here and there. If he was deciding between the Bears and the Texans, I think you'd have to imagine you take the Bears or take the Texans if you're trying to go for that Super Bowl, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I guess.
I like the Texans this year. The only question is their offensive line. I feel like every other part of their team feels like they can contend.
Yeah, their O-line stinks, and they really didn't do much to make it better, which is strange. But
they threw a lot of bodies at it. Took Ariante Ursery in the second round. They did some stuff, but it's never a good look when you're that bad and then you trade away what you would imagine is your best offensive lineman. So
yeah, that whole trade confused me. I mean, to me, it seemed like that had to be a locker room issue. There's no reason to trade him,
yep.
at that cost and for that return. It just didn't really make a ton of sense. But I think realistically, at the end of the day, it was probably just some sort of off the field thing. But anywho, so Nick Chubb lands with the Texans. Not much of a fantasy factor, probably, you'd imagine. But if Joe Mixon is hurt, he could get some run.
Yeah, it kind of a hard team. Like when I was doing the fantasy outlook for their running backs, like I honestly I needed like another person in that backfield to give carries to, so it makes sense because Mixon is getting older. Like he can't, 300 is a lot for him
He's carried a lot of carries his career, man.
And Woody Marks is just not much of like a early down style running back. He's going to be like a receiving back out of the backfield from what it seems like. So, and Dameon Pierce, they just don't like. They like him on special teams, but they don't like him as a running back.
No, they didn't barely use them last year. I mean, I realistically think I'm a person that does not bet against Nick Chubb. I just won't do it, Sean. I would bet on a lot of other people, or bet against a lot of other people, but I will not bet against Nick Chubb. I saw a video of him, I think a month or two ago. Still squatting 900 pounds or whatever the hell he's squatting. I mean, I'm not worried about him physically. It's just a matter of if he's still got the juice and still has, enough juice to hit the holes that he's used to making. Into 7 to 10 yard runs. It's like, we'll see if he can still do that. But I like the guy, and I don't think it's a terrible landing spot. And for Dan, he can maybe get something out of it now with at least a reasonable landing spot from a trade perspective. Um, then we had J.K. Dobbins signing with the Broncos. Um, just it's a classic depth move for them. I don't
Yeah,
know how much we're gonna see of him.
it feels like more of an indictment on the other running backs that are still on the roster from last year, because neither of
Sure.
them looked particularly good considering how well reviewed and tape watched that offensive line was from last year. They just really weren't getting a lot out of the running back position. So it's not surprising that Sean Payton would want to just kind of overhaul that entire room.
So I will on that topic. I have an NFL Pro account, so I just like watching like random players just to see. So I watched most of my running backs, specifically the rookies from last year, Braylon Allen and Audric Estime. I watched every single carry that they had from the all 22 angle, and I watched 73 carries of Braylon Allen, and I watched however many carries Estime had, and it was jarring to see they used when they used Estime in a power, not a zone scheme whatsoever,
Mhm.
power duo scheme. He was averaging like 6 yards a carry. Like it was absurd. Like how much he was just anytime he got going sideways, they didn't do shit, and it was like 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of it was the blocking. They're not a zone team, yet they
Right.
still ran the zone scheme often. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
And what really stands out between drafting Harvey and now picking up Dobbins is that Sean Payton wants explosive plays out of the running game. And both of those guys, I mean, Dobbins, like, I would imagine, like, over like a good margin of his fantasy production came on his explosive plays because he was outside of that, he was getting like 2 yards a carry last year for the Chargers.
Right. Yeah.
Like, he will pop a big play for
And
sure.
there's no doubt about it. Like if they just, to me, even if you look at the type of lineman that they have there, specifically Quinn Miners is just a hulking
Stood.
big old boy. Then
Mhm.
Ben Powers at left guard, big old boy. Garrett Bowles, big old boy. Like those guys are not zone blockers. They're downhill smash mouth, get in your face blockers. And every time you saw them do any sort of duo, power O, straight ahead blocking, they were killing people. And especially the second level, they were awesome on the second level. So it's like I I do agree. Like I think there's been a little bit of hype around Estime up until this signing. It's like we just got to get him more touches, and it's like yeah, you get him more touches, but get him the touches that make sense for him.
Mhm.
Not to mention he was facing a zillion stack boxes, so I think there's some room for a couple of running backs to be useful in this backfield. I
Yep.
think, like you said, I think this is more of a signing to challenge maybe a Jaleel McLaughlin for that third down role.
Sure. Yeah.
Something a little bit more
I
speedy.
will say Harvey's gotten a lot of like any talking point that's come out from Harvey from OTAs and stuff is going to be has been his receiving out of the backfield
So maybe
specifically.
he's that guy.
So, and he didn't necessarily profile as like a prolific pass catcher, but I mean, like when Sean Payton sees something, he'll press it and he knows the buttons to push. So,
Yeah, I mean, if you end up, with a Kamara role for RJ Harvey, nobody's complaining about that. And if maybe
not here.
Estime gets the Ingram role, the Latavius Murray banger role, then that would be, I think a lot of people would be fine with that, honestly. Um, and then Dobbins, I'm sure he's a cheap deal, and he's not gonna, you
It's
know,
1 year, three something.
yeah. So I mean, like honestly, like it could be an easy cut to get rid of McLaughlin at this point, and just
Undrafted UDFA, easy to make an
no
agent.
money. Like he's easy to get rid of, which would be great because it'd make an easy cut for my dynasty team. So, anywho, so that's the most recent news. Obviously, I guess we should talk about Aaron Rodgers, but we'll get to that when Scavelli's team, who
Okay.
also has Aaron Rodgers, that would be a nice easy transition there. So, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pull up the Dynasty Daddy page for the Toronto Battle Axes, and we're gonna just look through. And the way they've sorted it is by their keep trade cut values, so it should be a good way to kind of run through these. We can see their ages and maybe some other advanced metrics here too. So I think this will be a nice way to get through each of the players. And at this point in the off season, there's still, of course, potential for more trades to happen. We've always had trades closer to the season. Obviously, we had the hot tub trade machine from last year. So there's going to be more that's going on. But we'll do our best to give you our outlook for these teams kind of as we get to them. So let's go here to the long gamers. I'm sorry, not the long gamers, the battle axes. And we're going to start right off at the top with a superstar young quarterback in Jaden Daniels. Obviously, his trade value is quite high, even for our leagues. 7,600, very high. Sean, I don't know how much we can say negatively about him. I mean, he played so well last year.
I mean, the only criticism you could really put out there is kind of similar to coming into his rookie season, was like, can he hold up an entire season? Obviously, he's kind of he had that rib injury last year that kind of slowed him down in the middle part. But I mean, coming into this offseason, it sounds like he's put on some muscle on top of that. So
that would be great.
We'll see if that affects running at all. I know Lamar kind of had that issue too, where he put on maybe a little too much and he didn't feel quite like himself a couple years ago. So you got to find that balance. I think that probably, I mean, for any quarterback or anybody coming in the NFL, it probably takes you a couple years to find like what your ideal like playing weight and whatnot is. So, but it seems like he's doing the right things to try and figure out whatever is left for him to figure out.
Yeah, and I think just in terms of like his play style, I mean, he only had 25 passing touchdowns last year. That's certainly could go up as he gets more comfortable, with the NFL passing game. I mean, a lot of his passing last year, even in the playoffs, was just rock solid. So I mean, like that playoff run last year, combined with the rookie season that he had, only 24 years old. Like this is one of the guys to have in Dynasty. No matter what league format you're in, but the rushing obviously is a big deal. And despite, we were joking last year coming into the draft, like this guy just gets smoked anytime he gets hit. Like he didn't get hurt last year. He just kept bouncing back up, and he did have the rib, like you said, but it's like if that's the worst that's going to happen, and as he gets better at protecting himself, bulking up, whatever it is, I think he's firmly in that top quarterback tier, especially in Dynasty, let alone redraft. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how it progresses continuously with another receiving option in Debo, a little bit more of a veteran option. And I think their second year receiver, Luke McCaffrey, should take a bit of a step up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great combo. Like when you're just thinking about X's and O's with him and Debo, because you can't play man defense against him. He's just gonna torch you on the ground, and then you are playing against zone. Debo just feasts on zone defense and is terrible against man. So it's a good marriage of player coming over, and I'll be interested to see if that's kind of a bounce back for Debo after last year. But yeah, good fit for sure. The only other thing I would mention is that they played a pretty soft schedule last year. This year, the NFC East probably has the toughest schedule of any division. So we'll see how that kind of works out for them. Maybe a little bit of a dip back as far as like wins and losses and how that affects their offense and whatnot.
Yeah, and quarterbacks do, I feel like, sometimes get into a sophomore slump a bit, at certain times. I mean, it's happened with a few different quarterbacks over the years recently, obviously with CJ Stroud last year or something similar. But I have a really good vibes with Jaden Daniels. I think he'll be just fine. At the very least be, a serviceable quarterback. But this is also a team in the Toronto Battle Axes that frankly has so many quarterbacks that it really wouldn't even matter if he wasn't the same guy this year. We'll talk about a couple more coming up here in a few minutes, but let's go ahead and go to Saquon Barkley, obviously a superstar in his own right. He is I mean, I still can't get that run where he did that hurdle
Which one? Oh,
backwards. I mean, like that's just like
I mean, it's literally the cover of Madden, that should probably be the starting point of like, oh god, he's on the cover of Madden. Oh no.
sure, that's fair. I mean, that's fair. What's crazy is I'm pretty sure that in Madden you couldn't do that move. I don't think it was possible, and maybe it'll be this year.
So
But
they added it as a system update into Madden last season after literally a week after it happened against the Jaguars.
the fact that it was literally never done before is like football's been around for so long. Like, how has nobody ever done that? It's like literally nobody's been as athletic as this guy. He's just a freak,
Yeah.
and we've known that for a long time.
I mean, he's finally got an opportunity to be on a good team.
Good team, excellent offensive line, uh, lots of weapons. So he's not the focal point. You can't stack the box because they have two field stretchers. Like, it's a perfect situation. He's still only 28. Frankly, he had quite a few years where he was injured, so you could call that wear and tear. But from a carry perspective, he's still not completely, overwhelmed with career touches like maybe like a guy uh, like Jonathan Taylor or something like that, who had a zillion carries in college as well. He's just an interesting player, and I think he's one of these guys where we always talk about freaks and who could defy the age, the fall off, right? That 29-year-old running back fall off. Like, this is absolutely one of the guys that I would, if we're looking at, who could last into their early 30s, mid 30s, like this is one of these guys that like could just be around.
No doubt.
So I wouldn't be worried really at all about the fact of him being 28 at this point in this situation. I think his value, from a dynasty perspective might be a little decreased because of that, but I think that's kind of stupid, honestly. I think he's going to be just fine until he's 30 at the very least. So obviously a number one running back for sure for this team and for dynasty.
Yeah, and it's funny. I feel like I'm gonna repeat myself pretty much here, but once again, much tougher schedule this season. So we'll see if the Birds are actually playing from ahead as much as they were last year, because they were playing. I mean, they were playing with the lead almost the entire season last year, which is great for the running game. So we'll see how that goes. I would imagine we're not going to see 300 and I can't even remember how many carries he had last year. Let's see.
It was a lot. It was a lot, Sean. I can look it up too here.
345 in the regular season. That's probably a little too many to expect.
It's a bit unsustainable.
Yeah. So maybe coming back a little bit to earth, but not. Wouldn't account for much more.
I'm seeing at least 5 games over 30 points, which is just crazy for a running back. So it's just he's a league winner, and if he's hot at the right time, which he absolutely was last year, 28 points there in week 16. I mean, he's a guy that you want on your fantasy roster, and for Scavelli, his team is built around the running back, so this is a huge piece of the team. Let's go to our next guy on the list, and if I could find it. Somehow Bo Nix has managed to get to the 3rd spot in keep trade cut value here for this team. Obviously a lot of older players on this team, so that factors into this pretty heavily.
Sure.
But Bo Nix, man, as I mentioned earlier, watched quite a few snaps for the Broncos. I was just flat out wrong on Bo Nix last year. I'm going to sit here and admit it because I was not a fan. I do think he ended up in the best possible situation for him. Going to Sean Payton in that offense last year. So,
yep.
Maybe I won't kill myself too much for that, that thought process. But, as a prospect, I wasn't really feeling it. But if anybody could accentuate and make his game fit better than or better than Sean Payton, please let me know, because I don't think there is one. He's awesome.
And maybe Minnesota.
Maybe.
That may be about it at this point. McVay maybe, but yeah, I mean, it's all for me. It's like the situation is doing a lot of the heavy lifting still to me. Like, just from watching him last year, like he played well, but like I don't see him as like an elite NFL quarterback. I think he's going to be real good for fantasy for quite a few years because he's got the legs and he is playing in a system that is just, like you said, doing a lot of work for him.
I mean, I think based on what I saw, like I believe he can, from a fantasy perspective, he could easily be, in that top 12. From a fantasy perspective.
Oh,
But
yeah, this year, I mean, I've got him as probably a top 7 or 8 quarterback in fantasy.
wow, yes, I mean, like that's, I mean, compared to where I had him last year, heading into this, this whole thing, like he was off the radar for the most part, and now you're talking about a top 10 quarterback potentially.
Yeah.
I just think the way he played the game last year for that offense, just a ball distributor. But the thing that really impressed me, that not a lot of young quarterbacks, especially ones that kind of, aren't that like top tier prospect, this guy was slinging it. Like he was really slinging it down the field. There were tons of
Mhm.
plays where he was just ripping these long passes. He was doing
That
it against the Bills in the playoffs.
that Monday night game against the Browns comes to my
Yep.
mind
Yep.
immediately.
Well, that whole game was insanity,
That
but
game was nuts.
it's just the fact that he was willing to take the shots, and even if it wasn't like an obvious call like contested catches, he was still taking the shots. And this team, don't I don't want to discredit their pass catching unit, but they're not that good. Like they're fine. They're like, there's no Jamar Chase on this team. There's no elite ball winner downfield. I think what he was doing with what he had was pretty damn impressive. Not to say Cortland Sutton's not good, or Marvin Mims didn't have good games
So
throughout this.
you're getting into dangerous territory. You're gonna have to sell Cortland Sutton high for me here.
No,
'Cause
that's not
I think
like, I'm
Sutton,
just saying, like, I don't think Cortland Sutton's an elite receiver. That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Um,
I think he's still a quality starter.
yeah, he's very,
No doubt.
very solid starter. But like to me, he wasn't being bailed out on these downfield plays or anything like that. Like he did a lot of the work on his own to make these plays happen. So I thought he was really impressive based on what I had him heading into last year. I mean, I was very low. So just to see that offense get to where it was, and frankly, that run game was not that good last year, like we just mentioned.
Mhm.
They stacked the shit out of the boxes for the most part, but they didn't even really have to against him. So, like, I think he's going to only get more opportunities at this point with a better running game to spread it around
I
a little bit.
I really feel like he's going to get a boost, kind of like what Baker got last year in that screen game, because he's going to have guys that can really break it open and give him some easy fantasy points for sure.
Yeah, it's just, the field is just going to be more accessible for him. I
Mhm.
think in his second year, and he's going to be more comfortable second year in a Peyton offense, which frankly is extremely jargon heavy. It's not easy to master. The fact that he played as well as he did is still impressive to me. So I think he's a great quarterback, and just to have him on a roster with Jaden Daniels already, and we're going to talk about more quarterbacks here in a few minutes. Like really great stuff
Yeah,
for Steve
I
Elliott.
mean, dynasty outlook wise, I mean, you've got those like top, like elite top 5 guys at quarterback. I would just call them in general just tier one. Jaden being in there as well. But like, I think Bo Nix is probably top of tier two, just as like a dynasty outlook.
Yeah, I mean he's up there. Like I mean, if you look at all the guys, I mean, most of the quarterbacks from last year, frankly, are in that tier.
Yeah,
Obviously you got the Drake Mays, you got the Caleb Williams, you got JJ McCarthy is going to be a thing this year probably. So it's going to be interesting to see how that whole class shakes out, because I mean, we did see 6 go in the top 12, and I thought for sure there'd be no way they all hit, but it's very possible that they all hit. So
great for us.
I mean, yeah, it's just awesome for fantasy managers and dynasty managers for that matter that had any of them. So should be a really good, and frankly, the quarterback position just needed a bit of a youth movement, because after that tier of, or that era of Brady and Manning and Breeze and Rivers and all these guys, like there was a bit of a lull in between where we got a bunch of jagaloons out there trying to make it work. So I'm excited to see this next wave of quarterbacks. Next up on our trade value chart here from Keep Trade Cut perspective is George Kittle, 31-year-old. season now. He's been in the league for 8 years. Had a really great season last year. Again, he's obviously with the Brandon Ayuk injury, he was a beneficiary of that for sure. It's going to be basically the same, from a situation perspective. Maybe with the the inflow of Ricky Pearsall targets, I guess you could say, towards the end of last season will probably carry over as well into this year. But Kittle is just one of these guys that I'm never worried about George Kittle other than injuries. Like, that's really the only thing I'm concerned with. I think he'll be just fine if he's on the field. So,
Yeah, I mean, he's played at least 14 games the last 4 years, so it's gotten better. I think I do agree, though. I mean, getting older is not going to make that easier, but I mean, he's one of, for me, like 3 tight ends that are actual needle movers in our league.
yeah, that's fair.
So, I mean, it's a positional advantage, and I mean, it shows accordingly in his
I
value.
mean, you could even see, last year, just like there was these spike weeks for sure. There was weeks you got absolutely nothing out of him, but that's how it's been his whole career. Like, it's always
Mhm.
been, at least with the Shanahan era, at least, just you just knew that there was going to be weeks that he could win you the week, and there were other weeks where he'll completely goose egg you, and that's very evidenced by this chart. So, um, if you get him hot at the right time, great. But he's like you said, there's not many guys that can get you 18 points at the tight end position. So you can kind of put up with the dud weeks, knowing that he's going to get you these 19, 20-point weeks every here and there as well. So, for Scavelli's team, obviously an older tight end, but a clear-cut starter and definitely one of the strengths of this roster. All right, let's go back page and let's talk about Tony Pollard, because this is something, at least between you and me, I'm not totally on board with Tony Pollard yet. Still, after all this time, I'm just not like. I'm just not. It's not that I don't like him. I'm just not excited about him. If that is that fair?
I mean, for me, he's like a clear RB2 in fantasy
mean,
this year. So,
if you're looking at Underdog, they have him at 28 this year. I mean, that's kind of.
I'm ahead on that
I mean, that's
for sure. Like
it seems like consensus is 27 at the running back position.
Nothing about his situation didn't get better this year, and he was good last year. So
He was fine last year. He definitely had the spike weeks, as you can see. But, when he had these good weeks, they were good, 15, 16, 14, 16, 19. Like, it's not like they were all bad. But then again, like you mentioned, if he's supposed to be an RB2, which is kind of what the indication is here, he's going to have some bad weeks. He's not going to have all good weeks. Like, that's just kind of the nature of the RB2 position.
Yep.
So like, it's not like totally out of, like, you're not drafting him, especially in a redraft league, to go out and get you 12 to 15 points a week. I don't think that's what you're expecting. You would like that, but you're probably going to get, your 8s and 4s and whatever sprinkled in there too. He's not a top guy, but the problem for me is, like, I still like Tyjae Spears too. And I don't know,
same.
like, maybe over time that split becomes a little bit more uneven, perhaps. But like you said, his situation did get better. Can't really get worse from a running back perspective, because
I'm excited.
He had to face the most stacked boxes in the league.
I'm excited to see him run behind the Kevin Zeitler and J.C. Latham right side of that line. I think that's gonna be fun.
I agree. I think the line got better. I think the fact that Cam Ward is there and he's willing to sling it down the field, and he's willing to make the safeties back up, make the linebackers back up a bit. Like, there should be more opportunity for explosive plays in the running game, and screen plays too, for that matter. I just, like, the Titans have just been so bad for such a long time at this point now, and so unimpressive, basically, from an offense standpoint. I kind of just want to see it. I would like to see it, but I think, if I was drafting best ball or something like that, like, Pollard would be one of the guys I would like to have because he does, like, as you can see, definitely has his spike weeks. But then there are other weeks where you're like, I wish I didn't start him this week. But based on just his, like you said, he's a starter, like, for the most part. Like, you should be playing him in your lineup. So he's an interesting guy, but he's getting a little older now. He's 20. This is year 28 season, 6 years in the league already, which is crazy because I feel like he has not been around for 6 years. But just a solid player, and this is one of the players that, like, I don't think you can trade because his value is really not quite there at 3,700. I don't think you're going to be trying, like, value adjacent players here. DeAndre Swift, Najee Harris. Like, you're not trading off of Pollard probably for these other guys. So for Scavelli's team specifically, probably just holding and riding it out.
And I will say he just hit 1,000 total carries for his career last year.
So that's a lot of tires left.
Yeah, it's really not that many for his age.
No, I mean, when you're 28 and you only have 1,000 carries, and I don't think he carried much of the load in college either. Mm-hmm. So he should be pretty fresh still. And Tyjae Spears is playing on half a leg still, so there's always a chance that could just change quickly. So we'll see how that goes. Next up on the list, another one of Sean's guys this year, I would call it, Justin Fields, New York Jets quarterback now. I know you like him probably more than others.
I mean, I like him for fantasy.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, this is a fantasy podcast.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those clear guys that's just like he's that cheat code guy for fantasy football. Like, it is what it is. Like, he's a freak on the ground.
I mean, he runs the ball. There's no doubt about it. I just think this like, I've just watched so much Jets football that isn't good that I just want to just stay away. Like, I'm just out, and I understand, like, he'll have value or whatever, but I'm not going to enjoy watching it. And that's the hard part for me, is like I want to watch a guy, or I want to draft a guy generally that I enjoy watching. I'm not going to, at least in redraft, obviously this is, dynasty here, but the Jets just are a tough watch, and I don't think it's really going to change this year offensively. But there will be points to be had. Like, there's going to be, this is going to be a ground-based offense, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
They don't have anything else to throw to other than Garrett Wilson.
They're going to look like an armed service team out there.
It could absolutely be a Navy situation here, which would actually, honestly, I would love to see that in the NFL. Now you want to talk about how to get me interested in this team, Sean? Run that Navy wishbone offense, and I will be there opening day to watch that, because that would be fun. Like,
I mean, I'll be interested in Fields at value, and I probably am too behind on Garrett Wilson compared to everybody else, so I probably won't get him. But outside of that, I really don't want anybody in this offense.
So I think Garrett Wilson's going to get 150 targets easily.
That feels low.
That feels like, could he be 200? Like, it's not even.
Has anybody ever had a 40% target share in the NFL? Because it feels like that's kind of where we're heading.
He's no doubt about it, 30%. No doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, if that's got to be a zillion right there. So it just depends on the volume of passing.
If they're going to throw what would be ridiculously low in 2025? Like 25 attempts a game? That feels really low.
I mean, chances are they're going to be playing from behind too.
Maybe. I mean, if there's
I don't think they're going to be good.
Clock, it could just be a quick game. But I mean, 25 in like modern era is crazy low for pass attempts. And like,
it's absurd.
So what do you have to get to that 10 targets a game is 40%?
There's no doubt he can do that.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
It would be malpractice to not give him 10 targets per game.
He has to have the ball in his hands 10 times a game at least. Like, he's that good of a player. And when the rest of your offense, I mean, outside of Breece Hall, there's no difference makers. So you might as well give it to your difference makers. Like, split it evenly between the two of those guys.
And I'm sure as we get closer to redraft season and everything, this will get hammered home. But, like, he was his college quarterback anyway. They've played together for a long time.
Very fair. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, like, there's already some natural chemistry there. So, I mean, Fields he's going to get fantasy points, and it's reflected here by these ADP numbers. I mean, most people have him kind of as that, mid tier QB2 or something like that. But he could easily outproduce that if he gets the rushing stats. Um,
I mean, he is one of maybe a couple quarterbacks outside of those like elite top 5 guys that could finish with those guys to me. I
yeah,
wouldn't project it, but he could definitely do it.
yeah, his ceiling is up there compared to a lot of other players in that tier. Like if you're
Mhm.
looking, at him compared to maybe like a Justin Herbert type or something like that in that same tier. Like I think Herbert in that offense, kind of know what you're going to get for the most part. Whereas Fields could be, it's the mystery box, which everybody knows what the mystery box could be. So all right, let's go to our next player here on the list. Out of the 3650 trade value charts, Aaron Jones, 30-year-old running back now for the Minnesota Vikings. Um, he's not ranked very high this year, that's for sure. But in terms of redraft values, kind of in the 25 range here, 26 range. Had a good year last year. I thought he played very well, and that offense was just humming for a while. Um, I think they did a great job of using him when he was available. They didn't overload him really at any time. He kind of has just been, and he's been this guy that's basically his whole career. He's never been a full load carrying back. I think the addition of Mason is a good thing, frankly, for him at this point. Maybe
Agreed.
take away a few of the red zone touches or whatever. But if they can get a legitimately good, you know, grindy type back to go with this. He still got the juice. I mean, you saw it last year that he still looked like Aaron Jones. So I don't really hate Aaron Jones, but from a dynasty perspective, obviously his value is not going to be very high. He's 30, but for Scavelli's team, already with Pollard, already with Derrick Henry, already with Saquon, like this is a really good depth back for this team as they try to contend this year.
I I will tell you, I heard this like a few weeks ago and I did not believe it, but he most carries in a season in his career was last year.
That is pretty amazing,
And the
all things
most rushing
considered.
yards in a season in his career was last year.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. I mean, he did have some very good weeks here. He had a 21-point week, a 17-point week, uh, 17.9, 16.6. But if you look kind of towards the back half of the season, his floor was pretty solid, ran 9, 8, 10. So you knew kind of what you were going to get on a week-to-week
Yeah.
basis. His
I
points per
mean,
week was 11.
1,500 total yards last year.
Very solid. Yeah. I mean, the receiving game specifically, kept him afloat as well for, just keeping some extra yardages on the field too. So, and he didn't really come off the field a ton. He was just a solid back. And this is a team that as much as they have all these excellent pass catchers and, what seems like a very prolific passing offense, they still are based around the run for the most part. Um, so I have no problems drafting him at value this year. I really don't think it's going to be too different of a situation other than, they have a competent second back now, which they didn't really have before.
Who is now, he's not a threat to him as far as targets out of the backfield.
Not even a little
Jordan
bit.
Mason
No,
has very, very stone like hands.
he went to Georgia Tech. That should tell you everything.
Got it.
Like he was a Georgia Tech back. That was the classic, ground and pound back. You remember here? Oh man. Oh, we're gonna do it. Do you remember a running back named Jonathan Dwyer?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Big,
yeah.
burly, can't do shit on third down back from Georgia Tech as well. Same exact guy. Just fine. You just fine running back, nothing special, but just truly offered nothing on third down, and that's kind of the same type of back. Like that's just what they do. So, Jonathan Dwyer, man, I might back pocket that one. Um, really interesting player here for Scavelli. Obviously, one of the strengths of the team is this running back core, so should be just fine again this year. Getting to our next player, who's had an eventful offseason to say the least. Stephon Diggs at 3,300 trade value, 10th year in the league, 31 years old now. Obviously, last year had the injury, so the chart doesn't look very good, but looked pretty damn good. Prior to the injury. obviously ends up in a new situation with New England, where he would profile as the top guy pretty much immediately, as you might think, at least based on his resume over his career. Gets Drake May, who I think I am a huge Drake May guy, so I think he's going to be excellent. So
Same, obviously.
right, I think we've been on the same page for a long time on Drake May. So I'm a believer. I used to kind of shy away from Patriots receivers. I feel with the McDaniels offense specifically coming in, I'm kind of back on board again. It took a while to get there with all the bad options that I've drafted specifically at the New England position, but receiver position. But I think this could work out here for Scavelli. I think this.
Do you think he's going to be able to hold off Efton Chisholm III from?
I mean, we talked about this last week, Sean. I love Elton Chisholm III. He was a Shrine guy. I thought he's. Here's the problem, Sean, is that not only do they have Efton Chisholm III, who's the coordinator? It's Josh McDaniels. He loves these guys. These are his guys. So, I mean, I just think that I think this depth chart will be competitive, which is
it's a lot of guys.
A lot of guys, not a lot of guys, but just not a lot of talent. But it's just like how does it shake out? I don't know, and I don't think anybody really knows. We'll just have to see.
Their receiver room is like what cut day is going to be for Dustin's team in Dynasty. Like, there's going to be a couple other NFL teams that are like, we could use a wide receiver 4 after they make their final cuts in the receiver.
Yeah, like Javon Baker gets cut, and some team will be like, oh, we'll give him a shot. Yeah,
they decide to move on from like Kendrick Bourne. Like Kyle Shanahan's going to jump on that in a second. He loves Kendrick Bourne.
They just have a lot of guys, and they're just like, and the guys, they're not. None of them really profile as a true one either. So like I think that's really the hardest part of this, is that nobody has that traditional X size, the traditional X, type of body that you would shoot for. So like it's going to be a lot of guys that have similar traits, and it's just who's going to be able to execute it the best, and the most consistent. Because I think Mike Vrabel is a consistency guy, and he wants to know what he's going to get. I don't think he wants these guys that you could have these great plays and then have a drop here or fuck up something on a route or something like that. I think it's just going to come down to whoever's the most consistent guy is going to get on the field. And my guess would be, just like off of rip, I would say that, based on what he did last year towards the end of the year, I think it's going to be Booty, probably Kyle Williams and Diggs as the top 3. You would imagine, with some combination of Polk, Chisholm, whatever's going on at the back end of that, receiver room. But I think those are going to be your 10. Demario Douglas, don't forget about him.
Douglas, once again, Kendrick Bourne.
He's not dead. Yeah.
Not dead. Yeah.
So
a lot of guys.
A lot of guys, but for Diggs, he's being drafted right now as the number 45 receiver off the board. I don't like disagree with that. I think there's a chance he could outperform that for sure.
Not ideal when you're a contender and he's your wide receiver 3, which is kind of what I would imagine is what's projected right now for his team.
Right. But, yeah. Like I don't
it's not the strength
good.
of the team, for sure.
Definitely don't feel good about putting him in my roster as a starter. But Scavelli has other guys too that we'll get to that, I think will be mix and match at the receiver position. So let's keep it moving. And we're going to go to our next guy from a value standpoint. Somehow it's Michael Mayer? No, that's not true.
We haven't talked about Bucky Irving or T. Higgins or...
Yeah, I don't know how this is sorted.
Not sure that one's going, but it's all good.
Below are sorted most valuable to least valuable. Okay, so this is wrong. Anywho, Dynasty Daddy, still not perfect, but fun. All right, so let's go to Michael Mayer next. Traded a 4th for him last year with me. Just completely cock-blocked by Brock Bowers, no doubt about it. Brock blocked? Because that what you... He's Brock blocked. I think he's a good tight end. That's the problem. And
agreed.
I think he's like, if I were to compare him right now, based on like what just happened with Loveland, he's in the Komet category as far as like just like a good player that we know is fine, but he's more of a blocker, less explosive, but just a fine tight end. Um,
I'm pretty surprised that he hasn't been moved.
I think they're just waiting because like there's no for them it's really no downside to keep him on the roster because A, he is a good blocker, and B, he's really young and on a cheap deal. So like I think they could just kind of wait it out until a team might have an injury at the tight end position or something in the middle of the year, or his value maybe he has a couple spike weeks and he looks really good. Maybe some team will come knocking on the door in the middle of the year. Maybe they're trying to maximize the value and the return they get for him. And they could even train him after next offseason too. He's still very young. He's only 23. So I just think like for this team, especially like a Pete Carroll ground and pound team, like this is kind of a guy you want in the tight end room as far as a blocking tight end goes too.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. Their 12
Fantasy
personnel
wise,
is going to be
totally a waste
super
though.
fun to watch. Like anytime him and
This
Bowers are on the field.
is one of the it used to be the Raiders were my least favorite team to watch, and I would argue they're going to be one of my favorites this year. So there's just so much fun talent.
It's like for basketball, the league pass rankings of like who do you want to watch on NBA League Pass the most? Like the Raiders are going to be like
they've jumped up.
They're up there for me just out of just pure curiosity of how they're going to like just.
I mean, you got Genty Bowers, great, superstar level talents, and then I kind of like some of these other guys. I like Besh. I kind of want to see what Thornton's got. Just from a size and speed perspective. Basically.
Not much else.
But I would like to see it. I thought Trey Tucker was fine last year. Myers is still good. So like it's and they have a good line. Like they're not a bad line. So I think it should be a lot of fun to watch them this year. All right, let's go to our next player on the list here. We're just gonna. So we got some Bengals defense action.
They stink.
They're not good. They were so bad that they got their DC fired, even though it wasn't his fault. Harold Fannin, that's an interesting one to talk about. So I like this landing spot more and more now that I kind of think about it long term.
I think the best way to describe him is just to say what your comp was for him before the draft.
I said Isaiah Likely.
And I feel like that's like just chef's kiss. I think it's perfect.
I mean, especially now with Njoku, ahead of him. And I do think there's going to be a spike week or something. Yeah, last year the contract. He's only 20, which I keep forgetting. He's very young. And there's just no player that's more unique to watch at the tight end position, I think, than I've ever seen. Like, he just doesn't look like it should work. Nothing he does looks like it'll work, and somehow it works, which has me hesitant because that shit might not fly in the NFL. But he showed me enough, and obviously he produced at such a high level at Bowling Green against good competition. He had great games against Penn State and Ohio State. So there's absolutely reason to believe he could be a difference maker. So I don't think he could block at all, but I am looking forward to seeing I think he's gonna be one of those preseason guys to watch. Should be like he could be a preseason all-star.
It'd be fun to bet on in the preseason.
I can't wait to bet on preseason, Sean. You know how much I love it. It's one of my favorite times to bet on football too. Just these random rookies hoping they hit.
Yeah.
Speaking of random rookies,
and this other guy will be buried this year.
More than buried. He might be so far down that you can't even hear him scream. Like he's literally Brendan, I'm alive. Brendan, I'm alive. I don't think he's gonna play at all this year. If he does, it'll be in the result of an injury to at least 2 to 3 guys. I'm actually thinking there's a chance they could make him a fullback at times, just because of the size. Like I don't know, just to use him, he's gonna be a special teams guy probably more than anything. And frankly, he's a cuttable asset. So I don't want to spend too much time there. Let's go to Amari Cooper. I don't believe he's signed anywhere, has he?
He has not signed anywhere yet.
Which would be reflected in his 2,082 trade value. It's hard to trade a guy who's not on a team. I think he is going to end up on a team. He's only 30.
Tough when you get traded halfway through the year and like the production just kind of you're literally going to a new place and like it just kind of sucks for him. He's definitely not like what he was a couple years ago, but I am surprised he isn't signed anywhere.
Well, all this is telling me is that what's going to happen is he's going to sign with the Ravens at some point.
I mean, D Hop is already there.
We'll just wait till one injury
They
happens, and then they're going to be like, "Oh, look, Amari Cooper's there. Let's go." He'll
got
just
Rashad Bateman, the multi-million-dollar man.
big money man, big money man these days. I don't know. Like he's just one of those guys. Like even if he does sign somewhere, I don't want to play him if I don't have to. I just don't feel good about it unless he gets in a situation where he's like truly gonna, be on the field most of the snaps. Like from a fantasy and dynasty perspective, he's pretty much dead to me.
Really trying to think of where a landing spot would even be. Like
It's gonna have to be an injury situation, I think.
Jets? I don't.
I mean, yeah, I would take Cooper over Lazard probably.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't feel good about either, but like, yeah, I would still think I'd rather have Cooper. I think the problem or not the problem, but with Cooper, his game has never been based on speed or losing a step. He's a route runner. So like these kind of guys can last, a couple more years past their, what people might think would be their end date. So like I could see him sticking around a little bit longer. But once again, not at all fired up to put him in my roster at any point. Next up on the list, we have Gunnar Helm, a rookie draft pick for the Titans out of Texas. I want to say he was a 5th round pick, Sean. And
sounds right.
I just was never really high on him coming out of the draft. Personally, I think you liked him more than I did.
I think he's a serviceable receiving tight end. I think he's going to be that I'm surprised he's not on the Cowboys kind of guy.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. He's just like that, like gritty number 3 tight end, maybe number 2 tight end.
Yeah, I think it's a solid bet if you're looking for a tight end to grab him and grab Fannin and just kind of very Joker-esque, just saying we're having tryouts. Like one of you's going to work out.
Yeah, who wants this to hit? Yeah, exactly. And like I'm still a dumbass and I still think Josh Wiley is good. So like I'm still believing a little bit there, but there's not a lot of competition really if you think about it. I mean, like Okonkwo has never been consistent.
Yep.
He hasn't had good situations in his defense, but I'm not a big believer in his talent. And then Wiley has basically been a number 2 for the last couple of years. So like there is definitely a way that he could find his way onto the field. My comp for him coming out was kind of like a poor man's Cade Otton, where it's just like he doesn't really do anything spectacularly, but he's like fine at a lot of things.
Yep.
So I think
Competent.
he could be, he might be a cut candidate for Scavelli, who knows, but I think he will be relevant in the dynasty world, at times during his career. So nothing too crazy there. New Orleans Saints defense had definitely taken a step back over the last few years.
They stink.
They're not good. They got really old, and they haven't really replaced a lot of the talent that they lost over the years. So I'm not feeling too great about them. And we talked about on the cut episode, I think a couple of these might have to get cut at this point. Definitely a couple of kickers, but it seems impossible. But it should probably cut a defense or two. This is a defense that I do feel good about, the Rams. That front 4 is awesome.
I'm just going to bring up one person because I think it was the most underrated signing of the offseason. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Underrated signing on defense. Can you give me a position maybe?
Line.
Geez, I can't remember who they signed. I do know they have Kobe Turner. I do know they have Jared Verse. I do know they have Braden Fisk. So there's one spot left on that line. So I must be forgetting.
Goes to Poona Ford.
Oh, Big Poona. Well, who doesn't love Poona Ford? That guy's a big old boy.
Literally brought in because they got absolutely
decimated,
dunked on by Saquon last year, and their run defense needed some shoring up.
When I was watching my Audric Estimate tape, I watched him against the Chargers, and Poona Ford ate people alive on the line in the run game.
He's so damn low to the ground, it's insane. You cannot get leverage on him in the run game.
No, there was 2 guys that when I was watching all these tapes of the AFC West that really stood off the screen in terms of run stopping, and he was one of them. The other one, which like I've always been told he's good, and you see, his flash plays or whatever. But on a play-to-play basis, Chris Jones is so good. It is like I still think he's underrated. Like he's that
It's
good.
amazing, isn't it?
Nobody blocks him every time. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna pull, and I'm in the backfield immediately. Every single play. Doesn't matter who's against him. Quinn Miners, Ben Powers, whoever it is, just going right into the backfield every time. It's just like and the only times he doesn't make plays is when he's tired. That's it. So it's truly amazing.
I will say Jason Kelsey does a lot of talking nowadays, but he specifically said that Poona Ford was the hardest guy for him to play against at the end
Very
of his
interesting.
career because he was the only guy that could get lower to the ground than he could. And that was his biggest advantage against everybody.
And he's so big.
Yeah.
He's so wide, so large. That might be the most defensive special teams talk we've ever had on this podcast. So enjoy it while you can.
We miss football.
That's how bad this is. We're talking about Poona Ford and the Los Angeles Rams defense for Dynasty. Yeah, it should be a very good and usable defense this year. That's for sure. Evan Ingram next up on the list. I can't believe he's 30. I remember when I drafted him. 8 years in the league. He ends up in a pretty good situation here where there's really not a lot of competition at this spot as the Joker tight end. If you watch any of the film from last year, like I was saying about Esame, they did not have a good receiving option at all. And it made the offense extremely predictable because you knew when Troutman was on the field that it was probably going to be a run play. And if Lucas Kroll was on the field, it's probably going to be a run play. And as soon as they started throwing around Nate Atkins and these other like random ass tight ends to try to just make things happen in the passing game, like these different trap blocks and pulling plays and bootlegs and all this stuff, like that's when the tight ends were actually utilized. And it was basically just play design. They didn't have anybody that can make it happen on their own. And this is definitely a guy that can get open, that won't require him to be schemed up nearly as much as these other guys they had last year. This was a glaring need for the offense for the Broncos. So I think this is a good signing.
And where he's effective really lines up with Bo Nix being able to like kind of be in that safety net, kind of out in the flat or anywhere in that zone. Like his game marries very well to how Bo Nix wants to play.
And I do think another thing they were really missing this last year, and they ended up using these other bigger receivers. Like I was baffled by how much Lil Jordan Humphrey played last year. I think he can do a lot of the same things, frankly. Like I don't think they're that different in terms of athleticism. And I trust Ingram a lot more in terms of running routes. So I think he's going to get used in the seam quite a bit as well. That was something that was completely missing. And they used Devon Vele for those a lot.
Yeah. See Pat Bryant or Marvin Mims, just a bunch of random shitheads per usual for a Sean Payton team.
But this is what that's his MO. So it totally makes sense. I feel like his position rank of 9 is fair. And I wouldn't be surprised if he outproduced that. This team doesn't have, like, outside of Sutton, there's really not a proven quality second option. So this really feels like it could work out here. All right, let's go to our next guy in our list, our giant list here. And who's it going to be? It's Alec Pierce, another former Armadillo, acquired for a 4th-round pick, a great trade for Scavelli last year. Well done. 25 years old.
I'm going to keep my review on this one as short as possible. You ready? If Daniel Jones is starting, he's cuttable.
Now there's a hot take for you.
Because Daniel Jones isn't going to take the shot downfield.
Is he like the Darius Slayton now of this? Like Daniel, like is that what he is at this point?
Unless Anthony Richardson is playing, he's not startable. He's not playable.
All right. Well, what I did do a couple of redraft sleeper mocks the other day just to introduce myself to the redraft world again, just to see where people are getting drafted. He was going significantly higher than I was willing to take him. I'll say that. So like, I'm not going to be a hater on him because I do think there's some talent there. And I do think he's one of those guys that can produce in jump ball situations where it might actually work with these quarterbacks. But like you said, if it is Daniel Jones, I will be lower on him. And I, like you said, I don't know how startable he will actually be on a regular basis.
And if we're talking like in a vacuum, like I think he's a solid wide receiver 3 on most any team.
Sure.
And I have no problem with him. It's just such a, we were talking about how Ingram is a perfect marriage for Bo Nix. He's like the like toxic relationship to what Daniel Jones would be on that team.
It just doesn't
It's
feel, yeah,
terrible.
like he, like that feels like a Josh Downs nuke spot if Daniel Jones is the quarterback, like just the Wandale role.
Pittman not bad either.
No, they both can work underneath. It's just like that Wandale had like 100 zillion targets last year, did nothing with them, but like somebody might have to be that guy for Jones if that ends up being the case. So
Mhm.
yeah, like I'm not feeling great, and I don't think Pierce will match the production that he had last year. I don't see that. There were a lot of fluky plays in there too. So like I think he said, like you said, a fine 3 for an NFL offense, or a competent offense, I should say. But from he's a goat best ball player. Like he's a guy you take at like the end
Yeah.
of the draft and just pray you get those giant 80-yard weeks. And those are fun players to have. I don't.
Yeah.
I did wish I kept them last year just because it was fun, at least like from an exciting standpoint. So um, going to a completely opposite type of receiver, Adam Thielen, who's basically only an underneath guy at this point in his career. 34 years old, still kicking, still selling real fake doors. Obviously got injured towards the middle of the year, which allowed Jalen Coker to kind of get involved. He looked good. So then towards the end of the year, he really picked it up. I mean, I was not expecting anything of him at the end of the year last year. He really played solid football. He had 15 points, 11 points, 5, 10, and then the big spike week in week 17 for 24. So he did finish the season really strong. And I don't like, he's not going to be an outcast. Like he's not going to just get thrown to the curb now that they have Ted, but like there will be a reduction in overall production.
Did he? I know he's technically under contract, but like he's got some contract stuff to still resolve. Correct?
That I am, and let's look at his profile here because I think they have contract stuff on here. Maybe not. Where's that contract stuff? Maybe I'll look here at the bottom. Okay, here. So he has a 2026 void year. He's only guaranteed 1.5 this year.
I mean, we'll
I
see.
just
I mean,
don't know. I just don't know how you can cut him because he's such a leadership type guy.
yeah, that's true. You have 2 first round investments, and then you have Coker, who is
Good.
proven like, and he's good.
He looked good.
So
Yeah.
it's, I don't know. Like I agree. I wonder if it's just gonna be like he's just there and he's
He's
not
gonna be team
rosterable.
dad. He's gonna be team dad. He's
Yeah,
just gonna be. He'll be. I mean, obviously, all those guys are young. They're really young.
red zone
Um,
specialist at this point, maybe as a
sure.
receiver,
And he's like,
which would
you
just be
watch the
annoying
tape
for
last year.
everybody.
He got open. Like the guy was getting open.
Yeah,
He took Cooper DeJean into the shadow realm a couple of times last year, which was surprising at his age. I don't think he's cooked. Like he's got something to offer this team. That being said, we're talking about, is Adam Thielen going to help you win a fantasy championship at this point in his career? Probably not.
probably not.
So, I mean, this is a team, Scavelli's team, that we, haven't really touched on in terms of like the totality of the team too much. But this receiving group, I mean, before he added T. Higgins in the draft, was really bad. Now it's still not good, but it's better than we were at. But this is the kind of guy that we're talking about. Like Adam Thielen might have had to play some snaps prior to that trade. Like this is not good from a dynasty perspective if we're trying to win a championship this year, which his running back situation would tell you that, yes, this is a team that's ready to win. Again, like he's done in the past. So I'm just not feeling too good about this one. Obviously, he's not a tradable asset at this point at 1,500 or whatever he's at. But, for Scavelli's team, he's a roster. He's at this point, he's a bottom of the roster guy. Let's go to the next guy. Then we got a Tyler Lockett and Mike Williams duo. Oh wow, that was the Bryce duo from the trade from the other.
I said earlier, I was like,
I didn't
oh
even.
no.
Now I can notice it.
Should somebody offer him with Somebody offer a third round pick for this guys.
Who would? I mean,
Yeah,
nobody would. I don't think.
they're both cuttable.
I don't like the thing is like, okay, out of the two, I think I'd rather have Mike Williams for now. Like if I needed somebody to play to play in my roster this year,
Yeah,
I think I would rather have Mike Williams.
Yeah,
Because I think at least he's going to be on the field because like at least early in the season before I don't think Trey Harris is going to be ready.
worst case, a couple weeks in, you just put him on the IR.
Yeah, that's very true too. He's going to be hurt. Yeah. So that's
you get a
fair
roster
point.
spot.
But like then you got to factor in like Tyler Lockett from the team. Like if you need a locker room guy, like this is the guy you want to have on the back end. You know,
back in your locker room.
You want him in the locker room.
Yeah.
You don't even want him to play. That's the problem. You just want him to be there. It's kind of like Adam Thielen. Yeah, these guys are just they were good 5 years ago. Fun to have 5 years ago, but not so much now. Bucks defense.
They stink. They could be better this year, though.
I think they could be a lot better this year.
Not better.
Their schedule sucks ass this year.
That's true.
Their schedule is bad. They play the Falcons. I mean, like I'm just saying, like I think they'll be improved. I think they'll be improved. They should be better pass rushing, and they added a lot more help in the secondary, so I feel better about them this year. Next guy is a lot more interesting to talk about. Derrick Henry, obviously just a stupid year last year, just completely off the charts. He had a 33-point week there in week 4. 30, 33, 34, 26, 25, 26. And his floor was above 10 basically for the entire first half of the year. I mean, like this guy at age 30, I mentioned it last season and the year before that, I think. This is one of the clear freaks that I'm not worried about his age. I just don't care.
He's going to have to show me that he can't do it anymore before I stop believing it.
That's
pretty much it.
Do you remember late stage Steven Jackson back in the day when he was playing for the Falcons? And it was just like, yeah, this guy's just never going to suck. Like he's so solid. Derrick Henry's on a different level than that to me. So like, I am agnostic to believing he'll ever be bad. Like I just want to see it before it'll ever actually happen.
If you ever start to doubt it, just watch his workout videos in the off season.
That's why I believe, because nobody takes care of his body more than this guy at his age, at his position. He's obviously had a zillion carries over his career, but it just doesn't seem to matter. And he's never been a fast guy. So that's not his, like, if he loses a step, it's not going to kill him, even if he did lose a step. Like he's just such a hulking human being that I'm not betting against this guy ever until he gives me a reason to bet against him at this point, because he's done it for so long. And at age 30 to be putting up the season that he had, I have no problem taking him in the top 10 of a redraft league. I'll just keep believing. And for Scavelli, for this team specifically, to have him and Barkley running it back again, the two best running backs from last year, I don't really see a reason that either one of them would, take a huge hit value-wise. I think they should both be in the same range of outcomes.
I mean, if they're playing games, they're both top 5 running backs.
Yep. And it's there's not a whole lot much more to say, frankly, on we all know he's good. So it's just, there's no real discussion to be had there, in my opinion. Next up, Mike, another guy that's really no discussion on, like, if he's good or not.
He's good.
Pretty damn good. And really the only discussion is just like his dynasty value, frankly, at this point, because, he's older. He's going to be 31. I think he's playing 31 this year. This is his 11th year in the league. Everybody's pretty much, he's locked in for 1,000 yards every year. It depends really on his touchdown.
They're going to force feed him to get to 1,000 yards, so the floor.
He's, even if he misses a few games, he's still going to try to get to 1,000. Like that's just the way it is. And really, I think what changes him being like a really top guy and like a lower-ish top guy is just the touchdowns, just how many touchdowns he gets. And if you watch any Bucks football from last year, any of the mic'd up videos that they post with Baker, there's so many times Baker goes to the sideline. He's like, I'm just going to chuck it up to Mike. Like he just gets it. Like he knows that he's going to come down with the ball. And yeah, that's that. It's going to get him paid a lot of money if he keeps doing it. So nothing really negative at all to say about Mike Evans. I mean, he's still going to be. He could be even better now that potentially Godwin might not be available week 1. Like he might get even more targets.
How is that possible when they were talking about he could potentially, if they make it deep into the playoffs, Godwin could have returned last year. That's what they were talking about. But he's not ready for.
He's not ready right now. Yeah,
that's weird.
I heard.
Why is that? Why was that coming out last season then?
I'm not sure. I think there was just a bunch of BS that nobody had anything to do.
Hyping up the team for the playoff run.
They were just trying to find something to talk about, probably. But
an edge. Yeah.
I mean, there was no way he was coming back last year. I mean, even Jason Light yesterday on the Pewter Report podcast was saying that they're hopeful for week 1. So like, there's just like that doesn't make me feel good. It's like he could be ready for week 1. And Chris is like a tireless worker, so like I wouldn't be surprised at all if he came back well before that. But if they're playing it safe, which they probably should because they signed him to a 3-year deal for pretty substantial money. Like, why rush him back? Especially you got Ekbuga and McMillan.
Yeah, that's fair. So, it's all fair. So Evans maybe strong in the beginning of the year.
Even stronger. Next up, a couple more Bucks. We got Baker Mayfield, which I think he deserves quite a bit of talk, frankly. Just based on where he was at last year, and what he was able to do for Scavelli's team. Just providing that big trade early in the year in the hot tub trade machine. Just nobody really thought that Jaden and Bo Nix at the time would, be these bona fide starters, frankly, for a good majority of the year, especially Jaden. So the move for Scavelli to get Mayfield at the cost that he did was outstanding. And I think he's only 30, so like I think he's got a good, chunk of football left. And this is just a guy that like you don't have to worry about at this point. Like he's going to get you he has a very high floor week to week point totals. And for this team, he doesn't even frankly really need them at this point. It's just a matter of, who do you start on each given week? And I mean, it's going to be hard to bench Jaden Daniels most weeks. So just really good quality depth here for Scavelli, and I applaud the trade from last year. Then we got Jalen McMillan, part of your trade, Sean, from earlier in the offseason. I think it was for a 3rd-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember who you took off the top of my head, but I still think, and based on kind of the offseason buzz already, even Jason Light yesterday on the Pewter Report podcast again was talking about how much of a step they think he's made already in these early mini camps and how much he's coming in hungrier, obviously, because Ekbuga comes in. This is not really a guy I want to bet against, personally. Like I know that it's a crowded room and there's a lot of mouths to feed at this point, especially with Godwin coming back. But long term, like even if his career isn't with the Bucks in a couple of years, like this is not a guy I'm not really feeling good about betting against. That being said, I understand the trade and why you made it. So any other thoughts on McMillan?
No, I don't think so. I still think he's going to be capped as a wide receiver 3 on that team, even like going forward, even after whether it's Evans or Godwin gone first or whatever. Still think he's going to end up being the 3 behind Ekbuka down the road. But I think that's what makes this make sense for Scavelli right now, just like having that insurance. If Evans misses a week or 2, you can just kind of use him as a gap filler in that time.
Yeah, and he played so well down the stretch last year and he was doing a lot of that work on the outside too. So I think there's reason to believe, like you said, if Evans went down or an outside receiver was needed, like he could easily pick up the slack there and be a usable asset. And that's for, like you said, for Scavelli to get, trade a 3rd and get a usable asset in the receiving game, which his team absolutely needed at the time. I thought it was a good trade for both sides, frankly. Let's keep moving. We got Brenton Strange, who is everybody's favorite tight end sleeper, it seems like, at this point in the offseason. I know we still have a long way to go, but they didn't add anybody in the draft that would make you, question if he's the starter or not. They traded Evan Ingram away. Liam Cohen comes in. My only question really is, like, how valuable is a tight end in a Liam Cohen offense?
Yeah,
It
that's.
wasn't Otten wasn't it unless everybody else was dead.
I mean, if we're counting the top two receivers and then how Cohen likes to use the backfield and screen game and the passing game, like you're talking about like two receivers, the collective backfield of whatever that's going to end up being, and then then Strange, like at best.
Yeah, I think there's so many combinations this offense is going to throw out this year with their types of personnel they have
Yep.
that it would be very hard for me to believe that Strange would be the featured one at any point.
Right.
So like I think he's a fine tight end. I think he's actually a very good blocker from what I saw last year. So like he will be out there, he will be playing it. But I think if he's going to end up in that Otten offense or that Otten role, which I believe he will be, I'm just not super excited for that. But I think he definitely has dynasty value. I think his 3,100 keep trade cut number is fair, and I think he's got upside. And he's only 24, so like there's I just think there's a lot of similarities to Kate Otten, and if you like that kind of guy as your tight end 2-3, that's I mean obviously he's got Kittle. It's really not a problem to have this guy rostered at all. And
James is putting a trade package together right now for him.
James loves these kind of guys too. I just liked Strange coming out, but I didn't love him. But that's exactly how I felt about Otten. So, very similar player. Getting down to the bottom here, we have Christian Watson, which I don't.
I don't think he's going to play this year.
Yeah, I don't. Frankly, I haven't been following along. So if you have any,
I mean,
any great news for me, that would be awesome.
It was a multi-ligament tear, which like takes the 10-month like turnaround time for like a typical like ACL, MCL, like individual tear, and just complicates it, multiple surgeries. I would be surprised if you saw anything that resembled like what he looked like before the injury this season.
Right.
So now you're just talking about a guy that's going to be on the pup IR to start the season most likely, and like which is fine. You're not killing roster space or anything, but those are also injuries that are tough to come back from too. So,
and he's had tons of injuries his whole career. Frankly, like this guy's always been banged up.
Yep.
And not only that,
and it's a contract year for him.
Okay, that's an important piece of the puzzle. I just like he's had just such an interesting career in terms of there was so many of these like spike weeks where you're like, holy shit, like Christian Watson can really be something. And then there's other weeks it's like, what are we even doing out here? And then there's other weeks where he's not even playing.
He's very Alec Pierce. Like it feels
a lot of similarities. I mean, a lot of similarities for sure. He's still like, despite all that, he's still 26. I think he just turned 26. He might get a second chance with another team.
Considering the money that gets thrown around for receivers, I think he'll get like something somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, if Tutu Atwell's getting 10 mil, like he's getting 10 mil somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's just going to depend on his health. So I don't want to spend too much time on Christian Watson this year just because it's a big injury year. But Luke McCaffrey, just talked about him a few minutes ago. I think he's going to be in the mix for this, this offense. I think a second year in the system will be good for him. I've heard a little buzz on him already.
I would say a successful season for him would be beating Noah Brown out for targets as the third receiver. I think that's probably what you're looking for as far as like what is success in year two.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, like he's not a guy I'm like very excited about. I don't think he has the upside to like be a fantasy difference maker. He should just be a fine reserve player for the most part. I think he's also competing with Jalen Lane, who they brought in from Virginia Tech, who's got a lot more juice than he does. Which seems to be a feature in all Cliff Kingsbury offenses. So I'm just not sure McCaffrey can do that. And he might just be a true reserve player, at least for a little while. Next up, Aaron Rodgers at a 13.58 trade value because he's 41 years old. Like we've talked a little bit about him with all the other Jagaloons in Pittsburgh. I mean, as bad as he was, as bad as the Jets were last year, like he did finish 15th last year, I think, in Sleeper for standard quarterback rankings.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about it, but
I don't understand. Other than the fact that Pittsburgh needed a quarterback, I don't understand the fit.
I think it's a terrible fit.
Him and Arthur Smith could not be more like oil and water to me as far as like how they want to play.
I think that marriage is just not going to work. Like, I
And
think they're going to kill each other.
you put on top of that what's going to be his number one target on this team is DK Metcalf, who could not be more oil and water as a receiver for what he likes to play with.
No, he's not a back shoulder guy.
He doesn't. He DK
Doesn't do
Metcalf
it.
wins running away from defenders across the middle of the field. Like that's Aaron Rodgers doesn't attack that part of the field.
I just think we're at the point in Rodgers' career, it didn't work obviously really at all in New York, and this allure of him being the guy that's going to call the shots, and I'm going to do all these audibles, and I'm going to run back shoulder fades whenever I want, and all that shit. Like, I think he doesn't have his leg to stand on at this point, and I think he's going to just have to assimilate to whatever the offense is that Arthur Smith is going to develop for him. And I don't think he's going to have a lot of he's not going to have a lot of say as
I mean,
as a
is he going to be able to convince him to play under center?
That's another piece of the puzzle. Like I just don't think that like it's going to be up to Aaron. I think he's going to have to actually assimilate to what it's not going to be Aaron's team, his offense. It's not going to be his scheme, his audibles. It's going to be whatever Arthur Smith is calling. He's going to have to run because I don't think they're scared to bench his ass.
It's true. He's not. I mean, he's making less than Daniel Jones.
I don't think they care if they say like, oh, we got Will Howard, towards the end of the year. Oh, we still like Mason Rudolph. Like, I don't think there's a non-zero chance that he doesn't play all the games this year if he sucks and if he doesn't listen.
I would feel very confident right now. I think I would not take DK Metcalf at ADP. I think he's going to miss it. I would take the tight end, Freiermuth, and I would probably take the running backs over ADP just based off of like he's probably going to throw a ton to the tight ends and running backs.
I think Jaylen Warren is going to be good this year.
I agree. I think Jaylen Warren's going to like maybe top 5 in RB targets this year. I feel like.
So what I do know is I watched this this random clip, and I think they asked Levante David who the best pass blocking running back in the NFL is, and they said Jaylen Warren. So which is crazy. So I don't know if it was Levante. It was another really good linebacker maybe that said that, but like he's very well respected for his third down work, and Caleb Johnson's really not that guy anyway.
Right.
So if they are going to end up in a lot of shotgun, like you were just saying, then I would think it's going to be a lot of Jaylen Warren. So I think he's going to have a lot of standalone value as a flex player, just in terms of passing. But yeah, I'm just not like, this is a team, like we talk about teams we want to watch. Like this is not a team I want to watch. So they would be ranking very low on my watch-o-meter. Passed by the Jets, they've been good, but not worth really talking about at this point.
Yep.
T. Higgins, actually worth talking about. Good trade for Scavelli, trading a first away to get a proven starter who's not, 29, 30 years old, is still in the prime of his career. 6,300 trade value, which aligns very well with a first round pick. So I thought this was a good trade for Scavelli because he just desperately needed a top guy. I think T. Higgins can absolutely get you wide receiver 1 weeks. I think you always have to deal with a bit of an injury.
How many games are you going to get out of him is the.
And for Scavelli, like you need all 17. That's the hard part. The hard part. But when you're in Scavelli's position at like he was, what other options do you have to go out and get a receiver that's going to give you wide receiver 1 level production? Really at all, frankly, let alone 17 weeks. It's not as easy to find because the teams that have them right now are teams that are contending for the most part. So it wouldn't have been that easy to find. I'm sure Scavelli wishes he pushed a little harder for Puka Nacua, knowing the cost of that prior to that trade being made. But I think everybody in the league would have said that. But yes, for Scavelli, he desperately needed one and got one here. I can't imagine really any major fall off for Higgins. Can you? I mean, I feel like he's other than injury.
I mean, that defense is still gonna be terrible. They're gonna be in shootouts most likely.
And Joe was so good last year, dude. Joe was so good. He was the MVP in my eyes.
He was the MVP. He didn't win enough games. So
I mean, dude, that guy was electric at the end of the year. And if that's any indication on where he's going to end up again, like a full season of that, and a healthy T. Higgins could be nuclear. So that would be pretty huge if that happens for Scavelli. Evan McPherson kicker talk. We don't do that here. Brian Robinson. He's an interesting guy, Brian Robinson. He's just still around, still selling real fake doors. Never anything flashy.
Just a very unexciting flex player.
Had some really good weeks last year, though. Really good weeks last year. Some really bad ones too. So he's
definitely tell what weeks he scored a touchdown.
Yep, and he basically profiles to be the George Kittle of running backs. That's basically where we're at this point.
Yeah.
Just very similar chart. Yeah, they didn't really add anybody that would make me feel like too terrible. I mean, obviously Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is in the mix, and you know how much I love him.
I mean, Eckler is still there. I do like Eckler this year. I think he's a little underrated.
I just like
ADP-wise.
I don't know what he looks like anymore, frankly. Like I know he played very briefly at the end of the year there for them, but I don't like on a full season scale. Like I don't know what Eckler looks like anymore. So like I would like to see it. But either way, like Brian Robinson is going to be the first and second down back at the very least. He's going to carry the rock. He's only 26. I feel like he's been around a long time already. But you know, he's still in that prime of his career. And he doesn't usually get too banged up either. So like he's just gonna be a good solid player. So you know, Scavelli basically has to have these guys on his team because of the way his wide receiver depth is. Like these will be every week players for Scavelli at this point. Yep. So between him, Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard, like that's probably your three flex players right there, to be honest with you. So not a bad player to have for Scavelli's team, and I don't think anybody's really would give you any real trade value for him at this point. That would be worth moving. And we're getting close to the end here. We got Curtis Samuel, who I think is dead.
Yeah, probably not making that team, most likely. It's going to be him and Elijah Moore, I would imagine.
Which is brutal.
Yeah.
The fact that we're even talking about Elijah Moore. Yeah, I think he was like a post-type sleeper last year for a lot of people, and that just did not work out. So probably be done with Curtis Samuel. I'm done playing with you. Harrison Butker.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, rather not.
Piece of shit.
Rather not talk about kickers at all, let alone that one. Brandon Aubrey, though, we could talk about.
He's really fucking good.
That guy's a ball player. That guy's a ball player.
That guy's really good. He's 30? Holy shit. I forgot he...
I did not know he was 30.
I forgot he got into the season or the league so late because he's playing professional soccer, right?
He was playing another sport of some kind. I don't remember if it was like Australian football or whatever. I don't remember, but he is really good. He's only played in the league 2 years. That's pretty wild.
Positional advantage?
I mean, based on this chart, I mean, other than a couple of dud weeks, like his floor is 10.
Nuts.
He's 10 is ridiculous.
Crazy. He might be this year's Nate Kading in redraft.
Nate Kading, motherfucker. Let's talk about.
Let's talk about
everybody wants to talk about Bucky. 22-year-old, second-year player, blows up on the scene last year. Just unbelievable missed tackle numbers. His missed tackle rate was one of the highest in the NFL. He's so good. I don't have anything bad to say about him. I don't think there's any true scary competition in this backfield for him at this point. I don't think White is going to be anything more than a third down back and maybe like a carry here, carry there kind of guy. Sean Tucker is good, but you're not benching Bucky for Sean Tucker at any point. This guy's he's just good. And like he did it so frequently last year. And this offensive line, I think, is the most underrated offensive line in football at this point.
I would rank it number 2 in the NFL right now.
I think it's probably them and the Eagles right there. I mean,
Philly, like Tampa, maybe before the retirement you put Detroit at 2, but like now that Ragnar's gone, like they're so good.
They have no weak spot. The weak spot that they thought they had last year was Bredesen, and he was awesome too. So like, and I honestly think that Mauk, his year 1 to year 2 jump at right guard, I think he might even be a Pro Bowl level player this year. Like he's the jump he made from
I,
1 year to the next
it's the
is
same thing about
huge.
Barton too.
Barton's another one who started the year a little shaky and then finished so strong. And then Gedeke and Wirfs are both Pro Bowl level talents at the
And
very least. So
Barton is so big at center, like they're so
he's a
powerful.
big boy, big boy. They just have, and they're all maulers. All of them want to kill you.
Mhm.
So like that's, but I don't want to like, yeah, I sit here, really praising Bucky, but a lot of that line did a ton of good work for him last year, and even when Tucker showed up, I think in that one game he blew up too. So it's not like I don't want to sit
Right.
here and say that this is all Bucky because it wasn't, but he definitely did a great job.
I do have usage concerns for Bucky because like he got beat to hell last year.
It
Like
hit hard.
when you look at him like after games, he's like the walking wounded. So if you worried about like I would have concerns like whether he can really carry much more of a workload than what he had last year anyway. But he's so efficient with it that you don't really need that much more. But it just kind of introduces maybe obviously like looking at his chart right there, like you introduce a little bit of chaos into like the ups and downs. But the spike weeks are gonna be great.
Yeah, when he goes off, it's fun.
And as a secondary fun fact, I just learned that his first name is Marquise, but with
Correct.
an apostrophe after the Mar.
I thought for sure he would end up on Justin's team.
And I love that.
I do love that as well. I'll tell you the only real concern I have with Bucky, and this is frankly just for the Bucks in general, is their play caller. I think Josh Grizzard has never called a play ever at any level, so that is a bit of a concern. I don't think that Jason Light and Bulls would just hand him the keys if they didn't think he could do it. But when you're going from who I thought may have been the best first and second down play caller in the league last year, Liam Cohen, with all the different interesting looks that they gave teams, the screen game, the running style, the way the entire offense operated on first and second down. I can't imagine
They can't be changing that much.
I don't think so. But I'm also, it's still not the guy that designed the offense. And right. I do worry a little bit about, he was the third down coordinator for this team. So it's like, I don't know how much is going to carry over, but I'm not really worried about it because the talent is all there.
The talent is insane. Like, it's so good.
But that offense was just humming all year last year. I just don't know if they could hold up to that again based on who's calling the plays.
Yeah, I mean, taking away the quarterback position, Baker's good. He's obviously good.
Very good, yeah.
But like the other 10 guys on the offense at any given time, like there's really not many teams that you're going to take ahead of them.
I think it's one of the best rosters on offense in the game. Like I don't think you're going to find a whole lot more talent elsewhere, especially deep talent. Like even down wide receiver 4 is Jalen McMillan. Wide receiver 3 is Sean Tucker. I even think Devin Culp could be a thing at tight end at times this year. Like I think there's legitimately.
Dustin is rock hard right now.
I mean, hey, not that he's going to roster him or has the roster space for him, but Devin, I still think he has. If you're talking about guys that can make a difference on third down, like that's one of them too. So I don't know. All that to say is I am a little concerned about the offense as a whole. And how they might look, and especially early in the season, just because I think there's going to be a learning curve there. But Bucky is so good and so young. Like this is one of the pride and joy players for this team moving forward, considering the age at the running back position as well for the Battle Axes. This is a guy that kind of feels like an untradeable asset right now for this squad.
So you wouldn't. No, never mind. Not gonna say it out loud.
Now I'm curious.
I'll tell you after.
Oh man, he's scared. All right. We gotta end this podcast fast. It's an hour 30 in, so I thought this was good. Let's see here. Do we want to? How do we want to do this? Do we want to do a ranking where you think where this team ranks in the league, or do we want to say what record do you think they might have at the end of the year? I do think we should talk about the team and the outlook towards the season here as well, rather than just the players.
Yeah.
Perhaps, I think, wait a second. Dynasty Daddy has a let's take a peek here. They have a specific standings thing where you can come in here. Strength of schedule. That's interesting. There was a way that you could pick each game. I want to see if I could do that. Come on, do math. This is riveting podcasting here.
I'm gonna go 9-5.
Sean says 9-5.
I go 9-5.
The only thing I'm really concerned about with this team is the receivers. I just don't. And it's the same question we had last year, frankly. And then he made the huge trade, and then all that was really not a problem. But I do get concerned. Here it is. Future game results. Okay, so let's pick these games. So we got Scavelli. Let's see. Where's he at? Okay, Scavelli Lionheads. That's a banger right off the bat. That's a great game. Who are we going with?
I don't know the rosters offhand to pick at this point. I don't. I have.
I mean, I think I have an idea. So there's two teams that really don't have a lot of great receiving depth, but I think Scavelli's top end starters might be better, especially at the quarterback position.
I give to
Or not, no, I'm sorry, to Vince on that one.
Ooh.
And then let's see, against Muskrats, that's an easy one.
Auto dub.
Cheese fries. I'm gonna go with the cheese fries on that one.
Yep.
Lambs. I'm gonna take the battle axes against the Lambs probably.
Yep.
Battle axes elk. That's.
I'm gonna go with the battle axes on that one.
Okay.
Closer than.
I think that's a good coin flipper though. All right, now we're back to armadillos. That's another tough
I
one.
abstain.
I think that's a pretty even matchup too. But let's go battle axes.
Got to consider the fact that your receivers will be suspended.
They'll. I have a lot to say on my receivers.
George will be crashing out by week 5.
Yeah, I don't think George Pickens is going to make it to week 8. All right, battle axes plague. We're going to go battle axes. Battle axes long gamers. Jonathan, what might you say?
I'm not going to pick against my team. Come on.
All right, fair enough. And then battle axes bombers, which is I think is a quality matchup as well. I'm gonna go bombers on that one. Just you know how much I love the bombers. And then back to the line hit. So let's say they split. So they go 1-1. Then lambs again. No, it's not lambs. Muskrats easy. So he gets to play the muskrats twice. That's important to mention.
Yep.
Cheese fries, man. The cheese fries are gonna be really good. I think I'm gonna go cheese fries twice on that one. Then we get lambs. Probably go.
That's the battle axis there.
Probably go 2-0 against the lambs. Elk. Did we give Scavelli the win the first time? I think we did.
Yes.
So let's have them split.
So what's that end up?
So that ends up
8-6.
8-6 with a 2% chance at a first round bye. I don't think it's not taking into account anything else, but 8-6 feels right though.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, with the 5 running backs that he's got, T. Higgins, and then the top end talent at tight end and quarterback, that seems fair. I do think if T. Higgins goes down though, we got a problem.
We got problems. Yeah,
we got a real problem. But you know, the way it's laid out right now, a winning record seems very doable for this team, and should be firmly in the mix. So, looking forward to Scavelli likely proving us all wrong and having something crazy happen.
Yearly tradition like no other.
It just even though 6 losses feels like too many just based on the history of Scavelli, just constantly outdoing expectation every year. So should be a fun one. Good podcast, Sean. We'll come back to you. We're going to try to do these on Tuesdays. We'll get to our next. I don't remember who I wrote down, but I think our point stands at the beginning of the podcast. If we are going to get to 100, it's got to be the Muskrat episode.
It's got to be the Muskrats.
So we'll stay true to that the whole way. So looking forward to the next week, and we will see you next time for episode 92.